Hi guys, today we're going to be starting our perennial cutback and it feels a little bit late. We're mid-November and typically this time of year in my area, Maryland zone 7A or B, typically I've already gone around once, like the end of October, beginning of November, and done a light cutback on certain things like a hosta, some salvia here and there, things that have just kind of like collapsed from the cold. But this year we've had a longer than normal fall. We're still in it. It's beautiful out here. It's 60 degrees, but it is overcast and gray and there's a little bit of a breeze, so it does feel a little chilly, a little chillier than it should and a little gloomier. Like this is like perfect. Oh, I just want to sit on the couch and cuddle under a blanket, watch a movie type of weather. But I figured, you know what? Let's just come out here, do a little bit of work, and then we can relax later on this afternoon. So we're going to be going around bed by bed and just doing a little perennial cutback. There's not a lot to do in each of the beds. Probably just, I don't know, like 5 or 6 plants here and there. But again, we're having a late fall, and I'm just kind of enjoying it. You know, we still have a lot of fall color throughout the gardens, borrowed color from all of our neighbors. And it's just been really nice. Now, typically in the past, I have gone around and done like the big, huge perennial cutbacks and cleanouts, kind of just waiting until everything is ready to go. But that's a lot of work. And this year I have been taking gardening a little bit more of a relaxed approach, kind of just doing little bits here and there. We did our leaf collection yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. And you can see, if you look behind me, you can see that we've already got a few more leaves falling on the ground. No big deal. I'm not going to run around and stress over it. And I'm not going to wait until every single tree has dropped every single leaf to go out and do it all at one time, because that's just a lot of work. And I'm just not feeling it. So we're just going to go around and see what needs to be cut back and what doesn't. And typically the first things that I like to cut back are things that tend to kind of collapse and just kind of get mushy almost instantly. Like for example, hostas. Hostas, when they start to, what's the word I'm looking for here? When they start to go dormant and the cold weather comes, their leaves start to change color. They go to a yellow. They can crisp up or they can just kind of get mushy depending on your area and how much moisture you get. I'm looking at our one and only hosta, I should say. I'm looking at our one and only hosta and it is completely died back. All of the leaves and everything are yellow, but it's crunchy. It's not slimy because we haven't really had a lot of rain lately. So if we were in a situation where we were getting a lot of moisture and everything, I would definitely have come in and probably did a little perennial cutback a little sooner, just because I don't want to keep any of that foliage on the ground and it kind of gets a little slimy and mushy and it turns into just like a breeding ground for bad pests, fungal issues and stuff like that. But again, this year we're having a extended fall and a very dry one at that. So kudos to the weather because I don't feel super stressed out. So anyways, let's jump into this whole beginning perennial cutback and see where we end up. Another reason why I'm really enjoying doing perennial cutback in stages is because I don't have to bring out a lot of heavy equipment or a bunch of tools. Like if I have like a large drift of perennials and I need to cut them all back at once, I would normally bring out like the hedge trimmers and just kind of mow everything down. But this way, since it's only a few plants here and there, my hand pruners are fine. I've got a pair of gloves and something to put all of my clippings in. And I am really, really liking this approach, this carefree, stress-free approach to perennial cutback. And if there's something that I missed, if there's a plant that I missed, or if I'm late to the game and I have to come back around a few more times, so be it. I enjoy coming out here. I enjoy working in my garden, as I'm sure you guys do too. And it's my sanctuary. So I don't mind being out here if it's just to walk around with a cup of coffee and just kind of look at everything, inspect everything, or if it's to get out here and get a little down and dirty, so be it. For me, it's all enjoyable, so I'm good with it. And when I say we're light on tools today, we are. We've got a kneeling pad, a cardboard box for our clippings. I've got a couple pairs of gloves out here. These are typically the ones that I use, but Mo brought these home and they're insulated and waterproof. So I'm gonna give these a try. I did try them on and there was a little bit of excess room at the tip, which kind of makes things a little funny feeling. And I've got my pruners, and that's pretty much all we're gonna need. So we're just gonna go bed by bed and just take a look at everything, see what needs immediate attention and what can hang out for another couple weeks or so. And we're gonna start right here with our hosta. This is our one and only hosta because we don't have a lot of shade in our garden yet, which I'm working on. But you can see that the leaves have already dried down to this like coppery tan, and they're a little bit crispy. So we could just come in here and yank them, but because this is newly planted, I wouldn't even think of it because it hasn't really established itself. So I'm just gonna take my pruners and just cut it right off at the base. I've got my new gloves on that we're testing, and this is what I mean when I say there's room in here. See how it kind of like just, you can see it. It's not right up against your fingertip. There's a little give, but they are insulated and warm, which is good. Okay, so I've got my pruners. I'm just gonna pull this up like I do everything else, like in a ponytail. Just pull it straight up and just cut it off at the base. And that's it, we just guard that. So check this area out. We're right under one of the red buds. This is where we planted our pinkablu pulmonaria. I planted 3 of them here. 2 of them survived, 1 of them perished. So for this, I could pull the whole thing out, or I could just yank it up right at the root and get rid of it. For things like this, the leaves look beautiful, but I can go underneath and just kind of clean out some of the dead in here. A lot of the leaves underneath that have just kind of run their course, I can just get rid of those, lighten the load underneath, and we get a little bit of airflow underneath as well. Can you guys hear that? Are car alarms even effective anymore? Anyways, so what I was saying is for these, we can go underneath and remove a lot of this dead foliage over here. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna allow some more airflow right around here. Now, I'm not too worried about all of these leaves that have fallen from the crepe myrtle, because I do know that there are beneficial insects that harbor over the winter in them. So I'm just gonna leave that be. But like all of this stuff, doesn't really do any good. So we just kind of remove it. And then we just have a little more airflow right around the base of the plant. And then all of these old leaves from there, we just discard. There are a few things that I wait until late winter, early spring to start pruning back, like sedum. I like to leave sedum up the entire season because I like the way that the spent blooms and the seed heads look throughout there. Throughout the winter time, I think it's a nice little extra piece of winter interest. Hydrangeas, I like to wait until the beginning of spring, late winter, early spring. I don't want to do any cutback on them if I don't have to, unless of course if I see like a broken branch or a disease issue going on, then I'll cut it off immediately. I don't care what time of year it is. But typically for me, a lot of those things like hydrangeas and stuff, I like to wait until like late winter, early spring, because the way that I look at it is if I make fresh cuts late in the fall, that's like an open wound to the plant, and I don't want it to have to try to heal itself while it's trying to go dormant while the cold weather is coming in. I feel like that's just a little bit too much stress for it. Plus the fact that if we do get a cold snap during the winter time, those fresh cut areas could tend to get a little bit more winter damage or winter cold damage, winter burn, whatever you want to call it. And then you end up having to cut back more in the spring. So I like to wait until late winter, early spring to go in and make cuts there. That way it is a little bit more reassuring to me that we're not going to get hit with like a massive cold front or an extended period of time with extremely cold weather and just really stress out the tree and leave it open to, you know, infection, disease, and whatnot. So things like that, I like to wait. Now, there are certain types of hydrangeas where you don't want to prune them. The big leaves, the oak leaves, the macrophyllus, those you can take off the spent blooms and that's pretty much it. Remove your dead, diseased, and damaged stuff, but they bloom on old wood, meaning that the buds that form for next season's blooms are already on this season's wood. So you don't want to mess with those types of hydrangeas. You want to leave them be. Another thing that I like to wait until like later in the season are roses too. Roses, again, you know, if there's something in your garden, regardless of whatever it is, a hydrangea or whatever, if it's showing signs of stress, disease, or pest infestation, that's when you want to take care of it right when you see it. But for like roses, we are going to be trimming the flavorette paired rose a little bit, only because it's got a few wild arms going all over the place in a 9 bark and whatnot, and the deer have started to nibble on it. So I'm just going to take it down a little bit and kind of clean it up a little, but we're not going to do a formal prune on it until springtime. So we've got this little section right under the redbud tree done. There's not too much to do. So we can move on to the butterfly garden now. I take it back. I forgot this one. This one doesn't really have any dead leaves underneath it. Oh, that's fabulous. Oh, there's one over here. All right, so now we're over here in the butterfly garden, and there's a few perennials that I am going to cut back. I'm also going to go ahead and deadhead the little lime standard, only because I just don't like the way that it looks right now, because I did harvest a few blooms for a container project that we did a few days ago. So it's a little lopsided right now. So all I'm going to do for the hydrangea is just cut off the spent blooms. Not going to worry about shaping it or anything. Again, I like to wait until late spring. But I'm just going to be removing the spent blooms, so that's not going to hurt it. And then right over here, right in the front of the butterfly garden, we've got our drift of perennials, which honestly, you guys, for mid to late November, they're looking remarkably well and fresh. First off, you can see just how janky this whole thing looks. You know, you can see I've got one big bloom up here, nothing over here, and then a whole bunch right there. So just getting in here and just nipping those blooms, it'll make it look a little bit nicer. And then right over here, we've got our little drift of perennials. We've got our cat's pajamas nepeta, which, I mean, look at these. They've got blooms on them. The foliage is new. I mean, they're looking really good. So I'm not even going to worry about these. The ones in the front, they look really good. Now, right behind them, we've got the White Wands Veronica, which has seen better days. It's got a couple of spent blooms. It's just kind of done. There's a little bit of foliage here, and it does look like it's trying to push new growth. But this whole thing, we can actually just cut it all the way back down to the ground, and it'll actually appreciate it a lot more, because whatever new growth is going on here is going to get a little bit more light and airflow. And then right behind that, we've got the Back to the Fuchsia Salvia, which is pretty much winding down. You can see I've got a bunch of spent blooms heads over here. There's one bloom. The lone bloom, which is so pretty, but these have been nibbled by bunnies, which is surprising because typically they leave them alone. So not quite sure what's going on there, but I can just get rid of these, just cut them all the way down to the ground. The foliage I'm going to leave because it's looking really good. It's looking healthy. There's nothing to cut back. This is the sedum. Now you may come in here and think, that foliage is looking a little yellow, and that's typically what it does when the weather cools off. But this is what I like to see in the wintertime. These like burgundy seed heads. So even when all of this dies back and it just looks like, you know, tan beige, like a paper bag color, these kind of pop. And it's also a little bit of foraging for the birds, so I just leave it. And then in the spring, I'll just come in and just whack it right to the ground. And then we have the Flavorette paired rose. Now we're coming in from the backside, and you can see right in the front over here, all of the leaves are gone and the stems have been nibbled on. And you know what? It doesn't really bother me. It's late in the season. I'm like, whatever. But look at some of these canes over here, some of these arms. They're so long and lanky. There's one right in front, and I've got a couple right over here. I mean, yeah. Oh, this one has a bud on it. This weather is confusing all of these plants. But at any rate, I don't want this laying over onto this plant during the winter time. So all I'm gonna do is come in and I'm gonna just take it back probably by like half, just so it's not flopping over. I'm gonna do the same with the other ones, and that's pretty much it. And then in late spring, we'll come in, we'll do a formal cleanup, we'll fertilize it and get it ready for the season. But like, look at this arm. It's in the 9 bark. So yeah, a little bit of cleanup. Oh, we're also going to be cutting back our Serendipity allium too. While it does have a little bit of new growth at the bottom, all of this we can pretty much just cut back. It's done its thing, dry, brittle. So we're just going to come back and cut it down to the ground as well. Here's a view of the rose from the front. Nothing too exciting, but overall everything is looking pretty good in here. I mean, again, for mid-November, still a lot of green from the perennials. Obviously, the evergreens in the background are gonna stay evergreen, but looking good. So let me show you on the first one how I'm gonna cut it back. Then I'll jump in and get everything cleaned up. Then I'll bring you back around and show you how it all looks post cleanup. So for perennials like salvia and veronica, I like to just grab everything like it's a ponytail, and then I just cut it down to the base. And I try to do it in one attempt or one try. That way I can get everything in one handful. And we just dispose of it. And if there's any little scraggly branches left, you can just go in there, clean them up, just brush any leaves away from the crown, remove any weeds like this button weed, discard the weed foliage, and that's it. All right, guys, we're done in the butterfly garden. And again, it doesn't look that much different. We got rid of a lot of the spent foliage and blooms, especially right here, the white ones, Veronica. But everything pretty much looks the same. The mulch and the leaves look a little bit fluffed up. The allium over here, we cut it all the way back down. I didn't bother cutting all of this stuff. This is still green, so it's still going to be absorbing light and energy. So we'll just leave that be. And our rose. It's looking a little bit better in shape. It's definitely a lot more even, a little bit more of a vase shape. But again, all I did was just come in here and cut off a lot of these lanky arms that were just reaching into our 9 barks over here. And then I cut 1 or 2 branches right at the bottom that were actually resting on the ground. So it definitely looks a little bit more uniform in shape, but again, not much different. And here's a few of the canes that I removed. Not a lot, just like 4 or 5, but they were pretty long and reaching. All right, so we're pretty much done in the backyard. We have one more stop in the front flower bed. There are a few of the pink profusion salvia that I want to cut back. They still have a little bit of green foliage on there, but I noticed when we planted the weeping white spruce the other day, I noticed that some of the pink profusion salvia, it was leaning into the cat's pajamas nepeta hedge and kind of crowding it out, suffocating it. So I may have to push back the salvia a little bit in the spring, or just find a new place for it altogether, because I like the nepeta hedge, so I don't want that to suffer. And I noticed also in the corner right where we planted the spruce that we may have to replace 1 or 2 because the salvia were literally laying right on top of them. So while there still is a little bit of foliage on there, I want to get out there and just cut that all the way back so the nepeta can breathe. So let's head out there. I need to dump my little cardboard box full of debris, and then we'll get that cut back. I'll show you what it looks like, and then I think we're going to be done for today. And again, just a reminder, it doesn't have to be this big, huge, dramatic thing. Just a little bit here and there. Even if you come out here for 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes every few days and just do a little bit, perfectly fine. Whatever works for you and what doesn't overwhelm you. I was setting up in the front yard and realized I forgot to deadhead the hydrangea standard. Oh, Lord. All right, let's do this real quick. So you can see it's got a little bit of a wonky shape and a lot of the branches are leaning forward. Now, if this were later in the season, late winter, early spring, I would be coming in here and looking for swollen buds and doing more precise cuts and shaping it up a little bit more. But today, we're just deadheading. So all you have to do is just come in here, right underneath the spent bloom, cut it off. That's it. And it doesn't take long at all to do them. Boop. Boop. And there you have it. Totally deadheaded. We just got to clean all of this up now. You guys, I noticed when we were walking by here, I think maybe one of my milkweed seeds may have germinated. If you look closely right there, can you see that little speckle of green? I wonder if that's a milkweed. I don't see any other activity where we planted. If that is milkweed though, that is so exciting. All right guys, we're here in the front flower bed and you gotta check this out real quick. Look at the echinacea that we started from seed. It's still in bloom, late November. So is the cat's pajamas nepeta. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? And then of course, our beautiful weeping white spruce that we just planted. Oh, I love this so much. But right here is where we had a couple of the pink profusion salvia that we transplanted, and these are the rest of them. And you can see how far they encroached into the nepeta hedge. I mean, look at these. They're so little compared to the ones over here and the rest of the hedge. So this little section right here was completely covered. So I'm not going to worry about cutting this little corner back yet. I'm gonna wait until all of these have died back, and then I'll come back and do a perennial cutback on the nepeta hedge all at one time. Because if I do just a little, it's gonna look weird. But we're gonna be cutting all of this back, and this is what it has been doing. Look at this. It's been smothering the nepeta, and I can't believe I didn't catch it sooner, but it's just been laying right over top. And I thought it was like, honestly, I thought it was a little bit more upright and they were both growing together, but when you get in here, no, not so much. So just like everything else, we're just gonna come in and just chop it all back. And this is gonna take all of probably a minute or two. Everything else in this bed is still looking good. Nothing else needs to be cut back. The bobo hydrangeas, I like the blooms on these, so I'm gonna leave them as is. Look at this. Plain the blue salvia, late November. Look at those blooms. I hope it's picking up on camera because these are almost like an electric neon bluish purple. But this whole bed just looks so autumn-like. All done in under 2 minutes. And doesn't this area just look a lot more open? It's not 100% perfect. I still left leaves and stuff scattered around. I just kind of cleared them from the base of the plant so they could breathe, but I am just feeling so much better about this little section of the bed right here, because again, you can see what the overcrowding did. They were reaching so far over that the backs of some of the nepeta weren't seeing any sunlight. So they should be fine next year. I'm not worried about it. I just am very happy that we got this little section done. And again, if I had caught it sooner, I would have come in and cut the salvia back and let the nepeta breathe a little bit more, get a little bit more light on its backside. But it's not gonna hurt the plant in the long run, because when we cut this all back later on this season, when it flushes back in the spring, it'll be just fine. And by then we'll probably push the salvia back a little bit more, or we'll find another home for it. But either way, I'm just glad that we were able to get that taken care of and just start our perennial cutback. And again, I'm just taking it little by little. And if you guys are thinking of doing it or have already started doing it, try doing it little by little. If you want to do it all in one foul swoop, go for it. If not, whatever you can do, whenever you can do it, everything will be fine. And you guys, that is it for our video today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.